Blaze is a very cool Sonic character. Debuting in Sonic Rush, she's a counterpart to Sonic from an alternate universe called the Soul Dimension. She controls similarly to Sonic, except she can't do a spin dash and twirls in the air whenever she jumps. She also has a super form called Burning Blaze, which is activated by using the Soul Emeralds, a Soul Dimension equivalent of the Chaos Emeralds. She has her own unique enemies too, such as Eggman Nega, a counterpart to Eggman, and Captain Whiskers, who serves as the main antagonist of the sequel game Sonic Rush Adventure. Before that game, however, Blaze would appear again in Sonic 06, where all of her lore was erased because the script was written by a monkey. This is a major problem for the Sonic the Hedgehog timeline. Blaze has two entirely different origins that don't reconcile with one another in the slightest. In Sonic 06, Blaze is Silver's best friend. However, no one outside of Silver interacts with her throughout the whole game, not even Sonic, who met her like one game ago. At the end of the game, Blaze dies by sacrificing herself to contain Nibbler so that the future can be saved. However, the events of Sonic 06 are ultimately undone by Sonic himself when he goes back in time and kills Solaris in his infancy, meaning that the events of the game never happened. The question still remains though, why the heck was Blaze in the future? Now, my theory is this: when Sonic went back in time to destroy Solaris, he ended up altering both the past and the future. It's possible that Sonic Rush technically takes place after the events of Sonic 06, despite the events of the game happening prior to Sonic's arrival in Soliana. When we look at the timeline in which Solaris exists, Silver and Blaze are both from the future. However, if we look at the timeline in which Solaris does not exist, Blaze is from the Soul Dimension and only Silver is from the future. This is confirmed in Sonic Colors, where both Blaze and Silver meet up again and Blaze mentions a Soul Emerald, something she would have no idea about if she were not from the Soul Dimension. It also confirms that Silver is from the future and that the events of Sonic 06 did canonically happen. When we look at this side by side, it seems that Solaris' removal from the timeline is the event which caused this to happen. Now, this means that before the events of Sonic 06, Sonic Rush never actually happened. This would explain why Sonic doesn't mention knowing Blaze when he sees her, or why Blaze doesn't mention Sonic to Silver after Mephiles shows Silver who the Iblis Trigger is. The timeline would then look like this. It goes Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, then Sonic 06. Then, after the events of Sonic 06, the timeline looks like this, where Sonic Rush and Sonic Rivals occur after Shadow the Hedgehog. I think this is the best explanation of how Sonic Rush and Sonic 06 can both work together within the same timeline. Hopefully there aren't any major flaws with my theory. Wait a minute. Alright, now it's time to explain Eggman Nega. In Sonic Rush, Eggman Nega is from the Soul Dimension. In Sonic Rivals, Eggman Nega is a descendant of Eggman from the future. What the heck were they thinking when they made these games? Now, this does seem rather contradictory. However, we have retrocausality on our side. In quantum physics, there is something called retrocausality. It basically means that an effect can precede its cause, meaning that an event that occurs in the future can affect an event that occurred in the past. In the Sonic the Hedgehog IDW comic series, there's a part in which Silver explains that the future he's returned to is desolate and that there's no one left there. This implies that this is not the same future that Silver came from, and also that Silver's very being in the present is having an active effect on the future. Therefore, I propose to you that Silver's active interference in the present has altered the timeline to the point where Eggman Nega's origin changed from him being a descendant of Eggman from the future to being a counterpart to Eggman from the Soul Dimension. To conclude, let's go over the timeline one more time. After the events of Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic 06 happens, and then when Sonic 06 doesn't happen, the events of Sonic Rush and Sonic Rivals take place but in the past. Then, at an unspecified time in the near future, Silver does something that not only alters his future, but alters the origin of Eggman Nega so that he is no longer a future descendant of Eggman, but rather a counterpart to him from another dimension. Does any of this make any sense at all? Not really, but you have to remember that Sonic is a talking blue hedgehog, so really you gotta take whatever you can get at this point.